We're open and we have our first delegates to join. Hello, Anurag. Hello, Arun. Hi, Ashwini. Hi, Ganesh. Hello, Dolly. Wow, this is, people are flooding in here. That's great. Great to see. Hello, Amita. Wonderful to see so many people coming in. Hello, Ashu. Hi, AJ Kumar. I noticed these are all starting with A. Hey, Malini. Hi, Nikita. Okay. Well, I think we can get the session off the ground. So, hello and good afternoon to you all. My name is Michael Dehn. I'm the General Manager, Sales and Marketing here at Messe Frankfurt, India. And I'm here with my colleague, Deepika Kaur. She's a project head in our lighting division. Deepika, we are working in an industry, in trade shows and events where over 50% of the workforce are women. Is your impression from the lighting industry similar?
Good afternoon, everyone. No, Michael, I feel in the lighting industry, in particular the engineering side, women are still underrepresented. For example, when we walk around at LED Expo, you get the impression that there is a smaller percentage of women compared to men.
Okay. Well, I think, I mean, I noticed the same. So today we are focusing on exactly that topic and to see the impact that women have on the lighting industry, and in particular on the lighting design, and also where the opportunities lie.
So here we would like to ask our audience a few quick polling questions to understand what your perceptions are. The polling questions will shortly pop up on your screen and will have about 15 minutes to click on one of the answers. Okay. So let us know your views. What, according to you, is the percentage share of women in the lighting industry? Is it more than 50%? Between 30 to 49%? Between 10 to 29%? Or less than 10%? So we'll wait here for a few seconds for everyone to get a chance to click on the answers, and then we'll display the results. Wow, this answers it all for us. We have 30 to 49%, 35%, and the answer for 10 to 29% is 35%. I was also being curious to know how many are women attendees in today's session. Please answer our second poll question. So which is, are you a woman attendee of this session? So the answer is 42% says yes and 58% says no. So the result is so encouraging. We are so happy that so many of women have joined in today. Now we have the pleasure to introduce to you a strong panel of successful women who have played a crucial role in changing the dynamic in the lighting industry. They will discuss and share their experiences and challenges faced by them while working in the industry. We would like to introduce you to Ms. Navedita Sehrawat, affiliate IALD member and the moderator of today's session. She's an architect by training and is partner and creative director at Design Matrix. With the team, with a portfolio of over 200 completed and ongoing projects worldwide, she leads the team in the design of holistic, perception-driven, and spatial experience using light. Over to you, Navedita.
Thank you, Deepika. It has always been my experience that the lighting industry has come together to support the women in the profession. And we are so thrilled to see that again with so many women and men coming together in the audience today. I'd like to welcome our event partner for this session, K-Light Industries. And playing on your screens next is a brief video clip from our sponsors. Can we have the AV clip, please? That was fantastic. Moving on, I'd like to mention at this point that the chat box will be closed, but please do put in your questions in the Q&A section. And if you'd like to address it specifically to any panelists, please do mention their names. Today's conversation starts with just how well women are represented in the Indian lighting industry, but it goes on to take a deeper look at any gender-specific day-to-day challenges women may face at the workplace through the eyes and experiences of our very accomplished panel of speakers today. I'm thrilled to welcome on board 5 very special women from different domains of the lighting industry. Mrinalini Gadiok is a multi-skilled, multidisciplinary professional, having worked in architecture, lighting design, historical research, and writing. She was founding editor at Mondo Arc India and StirWorld.com and is co-founder of Unplugged Talks. She is currently involved with WOD, Women in Office Design, and exploring the role of men in creating equality for women in the workplace. I'd like to introduce next Shaili Trivedi. Shaili is amazingly talented with a double master's degree in interiors and lighting design. And a lot of people may not know that she did both master's degrees simultaneously. I don't think I even need to say anymore, but I will. She is also currently serving as chair-elect of the Saurashtra Regional Chapter for Triple ID, which is the Institute of Indian Interior Designers. Joining us next is Surbhi Jindal, founder, CEO, and principal architect of the multifaceted lighting design practice, The Light Hub, based out of India and the US. She is the new India ambassador for the international movement called Women in Lighting and has won several accolades, both domestic and international, for her entrepreneurial spirit and her amazing work. I'd like to welcome next Bhanumathi Ilangovan. She represents a number of international lighting brands in India as their channel partner through her firm Balika. And in a domain dominated by men, she is one of the few women in sales heading her own firm and helping raise the quality and standard of lighting installations in the country. And as the cliche goes, last but not the least, and in fact, far from it, Sharmila Khumbat, Director of Business Development at K-Light Industries. Sharmila graduated from New York with a design major and is widely recognized for her work as an entrepreneur. Welcome to all of you. And we'll start today's discussion. Mrinalini, this first one is for you. So as a lighting designer, you have the insider's view of the lighting profession. And as past editor of a lighting and design magazine, you have the outsider's view. Would you agree that in lighting, unlike architecture or interior design, the women are playing a greater role in shaping the profession?
Firstly, thank you for having me here, Nivedita, and Messe Frankfurt and everyone on the panel. It's great to be here and be a part of such an esteemed group of women designers and practitioners. A short answer to your question would be yes, but I think what would be more critical is to question why. I think what is interesting to note here that architecture and interior design is they're like older professions that were established many, many decades ago. And it was a time when it was predominantly led by men. It was, it was a time when women weren't really getting into professional streams, were not really educated in the field. And therefore men had the opportunity to shape the profession to as what they wanted it to be. And women have had to play catch up, right? Because by the time they kind of got into it and they were given the opportunities to deal with it, they were kind of trying to change things. And I think they're doing a significant amount of work in that sphere. Lighting design, on the other hand, has been another fascinating sort of field to look at because it is a much younger profession. And what that has enabled is that it came up at a time, and let's say, especially in India in the last, I would say, conservatively, about 10, 15 years ago, when things have really picked up for lighting design, right? But it's come up at a time where women are already in the design profession. There are women who are practicing as architects and interior designers. A lot of them have shifted focus from traditional or conventional architecture and interior design and moved to lighting. What was considered as a subset earlier today is considered a specialized field. And women, because they had that chance and the opportunity to kind of hit the ground running and to be on the forefront of the establishment of the profession, they've obviously played a larger role in, working to shape it. So yeah, I definitely feel that women are playing a very, very significant role. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we were talking yesterday, and the proportion of women to men in lighting design, again, worldwide is close to 40 to 60%. Or I think it's like a 40-60 divide, which is very encouraging because it's taken many, many years for a 50-50 sort of proportion to appear within architecture, right? So it's taken a much smaller time period for that to happen in lighting design, which is a very, very encouraging factor. And I think there's a lot more to see up ahead.
Thank you. And Shaili, how do you see this? What is your take on it?
Okay, first of all, Nivedita, thank you for calling me here. I see, I would like to add in one point that, yes, I would say being women, we are blessed to be more sensitive towards many aspects when sensitivity is demanded. And of course, any form of design tool deals in sensitivity. So lighting design being a newer subject as compared to other design industry demands to be marketed in very sensitively to shape it more ethically and positively. And of course, yes, being a newer subject, like as in design, as compared to interior design or architecture, there is a, I mean, in terms of in academics, there are more women going in, but when it comes to real life practices, there is a big gap between the academics and the real life practice. I mean, then there are women who leave the industry. So we also need to work out on that front, like that bridging the gap between academics and the real life profession. So, yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. And empathy is such a big part of design thinking. And as women, we are just wired better in that aspect. And hopefully we're able to deploy it in our work. But also, given that you're a chair-elect of the Triple ID Saurashtra chapter, what is the representation of women in such leadership roles for interior design?
So as compared to the past, now there are many women coming up as leaders. I saw a drastic rise of women leaders compared to the previous term. So the previous term had hardly 20%, where as in term, this term would be around more than 60%. So I also found that women leading are more educated, more efficient, organized, composed, and very ambitious. So I think that is maybe that struggle for existence which is working. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Those are both inspiring and encouraging numbers right there. And we definitely do need more women role models to look up to. And I'd like to address this to Surbhi, who is ambassador to India for the Women in Lighting project. And this is a platform that profiles the achievements and the struggles of women in nearly 50 countries. Surbhi, what is the vision and intent behind it? Surbhi, are you able to hear me?
I think Surbhi has to.
Surbhi, your microphone is on mute.
I'm so sorry. Apologies. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Nivedita, for having me and for the lovely introduction. Firstly, it's a great honor and privilege to be a part of today's event as supporting partners on behalf of WIL India. So what is Women in Lighting project all about and how it came live? In 2018, Sharon and Martin, the owners of the project, made a short film called The Perfect Light, which featured interviews with lighting designers from across the globe. Okay, so after showing it in New York, they were asked by some female audience members that why they had not included many women in the film. So shocked by the observation, as it had never occurred to them that they had not approached this with balance and had mainly interviewed men from across the globe. So this inspired Sharon and Martin to start this project or came up with the idea of Women in Lighting. When they went back to London, they looked at all the conferences, award juries, magazine panels, etc., that they could think of, and discovered that really this imbalance is definitely there and it's very common. So hence, they decided to redress this, and the project is the result of it. So Women in Lighting, as you rightly said, is an inspirational platform that profiles women working in the field of lighting, globally supported by Formal Lighting and Cartier from Archicos. The main aim of the project is to interview and create a platform for the promotion of women who are working in the industry so that their stories are heard and their profiles are raised. Hence, making it to be an expanding archive telling stories of these women from around the world. However, it is not about gender inequality, but about inclusivity and how this is beneficial to the profession as a whole. The project is supported by individual female lighting designers in 72 different countries as ambassadors, and they're based out of these 72 countries. So that was a short summary or short story, I would say, behind the project.
I think that's really interesting, because from 2018, when Women in Lighting started, to right now, I personally do see a phenomenal difference in, you know, how women are represented, especially in design, while sales and manufacturing are still very dominated by men. But at least in design, you know, our voices are, you know, are heard very strongly now. So.
Right.
And you're part of the India chapter. So does WIL India have some specific plans to strengthen this, the position of women in the Indian lighting industry?
So coming on to WIL India chapter, we have now grown to almost 50 members from 7 members in past 2 years' time. 27 members as part of a segment 4 teams, comprising 20 as women and 7 as WIL male supporters. And it's just incredible to see such immense support from so many women designers and the number of women who have actually come forward to contribute to the initiative and grow the community. So hence, we realized that it's important to actually celebrate and promote their profiles on an international platform, right? So therefore, we have initiatives coming up soon, like featuring young, passionate designers of India in the upcoming editions of the Art magazine London, and selecting the star contributors every month who support the community grow in all possible ways, which is quite inspiring and empowering for more and more women designers to join the community as well. So, I mean, when you and me, Nivedita, we started our careers, we hardly had any such brilliant platforms to showcase our profiles or even showcase our works for that matter, right? So, and while we have great support from all our international partners, WIL India has got its own supporters in the form of Smart Home Expo and the Smart Home World. And going ahead, we, for any planned future activities like live interviews, inspirational workshops, get-togethers, as well as visuals, we have plans to open up 2 Women in Lighting corners, one in Mumbai and the other one in Bangalore. Mumbai one being at BPS and the Bangalore one at Studio Plus premises.
That's a really impressive lineup, Surabhi. And of course, the work and the achievements of these women must be celebrated. And I'm really looking forward to that interview with the only woman lighting designer who's in Zimbabwe. And it's not just about India, it's about across the world. And
right.
And while we may have it much better here, there are countries, you know, where every day is a challenge for the women. Thank you. But back to home territory and moving on now from a researcher and a designer's perspective to someone who's been in sales since the beginning. Banu, you had a strong career going on in sales for furniture. And what made you switch to a career in lighting? And what were your feelings and thoughts when you started out? And just how has it been so far?
First of all, thank you, Nivedita. Thanks for the invite to be a part of this panel discussion. And I didn't plan to switch career. I would say lighting as a career option came to me and I took it up. Initially, I was not sure if it was prudent of me to, switch the career from well-established furniture industry to lighting industry. But during the interview, I was convinced to give it a try. And till date, I'm very thankful for the opportunity that came my way. And I'm also kind of happy with myself that I was keeping an open mind and giving it a shot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. See, once I took the decision, this is what was primarily on top of my head. Once I took the plunge, furniture was a very masculine product, while lighting came across as a very feminine product to me. It was amazing the way how just this one component would transform the entire area, any area for that matter. Once I started understanding lighting in context to spaces, I got very passionate about it, and there was no looking back at all. And for your question on how my feelings were when I started out on my own, it was mixed feelings. I was excited, at the same time I was also unsure. The feelings were one would dominate the other at times. But whenever the fear of unknown would grip me, I would stop for a minute and ponder if I should give up the thought. And giving up the thought was more scarier than facing the unknown. So I thought, okay, then let's just do it. I should also mention that when I did speak to my family, my fellow colleagues and friends from the same industry, from lighting industry, they were all very supportive and encouraged me. That gave me a lot of courage. It kind of convinced me that I was doing the right thing.
Nice. When you say that, there's an adage in lighting that was coined by this award-winning lighting consultancy that goes, the right light at the right place at the right time, and I guess, that's how everything fell for you, just fell in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely say that.
And it's very interesting. I have not heard this before, where, office furniture is seen as a more masculine subject.
Yeah.
Well, not as subject, as an object, and a light is seen as feminine, and that's just such a brilliant take on it. So thanks. So you've been in lighting for how many years now?
9.5.
So almost a decade.
Yes.
And have you faced any situations in your career where you were treated differently because of your gender specifically?
Yes, one project I did lose because of the very same reason. First, I was surprised to hear this remark. I couldn't believe myself. It sounded very silly to me. I asked myself, could that even be a reason to lose a project? In fact, friends and colleagues who encouraged me, who were all out, asked me to, encourage me to establish on my own. Almost all of them were men, very open-minded, who only saw what were my strengths and who never looked at me as a woman with limitations. So I told myself, losses for the project. The project could not get my personal attention.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this was it was a corporate. It was a what kind of client was this? Was it a residential? Was it a?
It was a hospitality industry. Yeah, it was a hospitality project. But I should also say that almost 1.5 years after I lost the project, from the same project, I have received a project from them. So maybe it took that much of a time for me to prove to them.
Sure. What's often surprising, and I'm quoting someone very special here with a ton of experience, that there's sometimes more resistance in the so-called brands and the fashionable corporates than even the government, where there are so many women bureaucrats. And I'll come to this question about women and government right after this question to Sharmila, who's at the helm of this large empire of manufacturing lighting products. Sharmila, have you faced situations where people just don't give you enough credit or haven't taken you seriously because you're a woman, even though you're right there at the top? And how did you handle it?
Well, Nivedita, firstly, let me thank you. And I'm really glad to be a part of this forum. It's lovely to hear these ladies and their different views. And the statement that you just made, it's a very humbling statement. So let me just restructure this and see the best way I can answer this. Industrial manufacturing, I think, Nivedita, across all spectrums, not relevant just to lighting. is predominantly a male-dominated subject or field. However, the interesting point here is that lighting equipment manufacturing is no exception to this rule. Taking this into consideration, K-Light has made a very interesting analogy, and here's where we have taken this on a different stride. K-Light has kind of given an equal opportunity employer platform. So it's strange, but we have over 50% of our workforce women across the spectrum, from welding to grinding to things that only you would think males would do. Our women do it, and I must say they do it better in some cases because their hand is so stable. So the welding is like perfect. So that's an exciting thing. To answer your question, have I been treated differently? Quite honestly, lighting to me, Nivedita, is a relatively new field. I am blessed that I have an amazing boss, a boss whom I admire, I look up to. He's my inspiration, my guru. So I consider myself unemployable had it not been for this boss. And he's my dad. So when I moved back to India, it was just a natural choice that, I joined him. And it's been an amazing journey, I would say. It's been challenging, but it's a lot of learning. It's been an amazing journey. And that's why I always consider myself an accidental entrepreneur into lighting, not by choice, but by virtue of birth, I guess. The most important factor, I think, Nivedita, that shaped our mindset, though it's predominantly industries that I've worked in over the last 25 years, it's been predominantly male dominated. Like I was into industrial raw material and industrial graphic art machines, heavy metal. I don't know why I chose these industries, but nevertheless, and now lighting in the manufacturing segment. So I think a lot had to do with our upbringing. We are 4 girls, and I think our parents never discriminated us or never gave us a lack of opportunity or a platform where we couldn't excel. So I think that whole mindset had gotten into all 4 of us, and each one of us never really looked at any situation as, I'm a girl and you're a boy, so you have it. We just looked at it like, let the best one get it, and so it was more like a neutral thought process rather than a gender specific thought process, I would say. And to answer the second part of your question, which is, have you faced situations where you've not been taken seriously? I'll add to what Banu had to say where she lost this lovely project. In short and long of it, the answer is yes. You have to expect misunderstandings to happen and from time to time, and it is okay. But let me give you one example. So my husband used to join me for all my travels, and because I refused to travel alone, so I said, just accompany me. I know you're going to be bored out of your mind, but just come. He's been doing that, thankfully. So there are a lot of these people who would just keep the conversation. It's just him and them, right? And I don't even exist in the scenario. I'm not even there. I'm like, poof, I'm gone. So 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 20 minutes, however long the conversation go, I just hold his hand and I'm like, just keep going. And he would smile, and sometimes he would just break and he'd start saying, listen, I'm just here for the ride. She's in charge. I'm not really going to give you any business, so you need to talk to her. So so that is funny. But so that these things happen occasionally, and after all these years, I find that it is all about perspective. And if you don't take things too personally, I think it's all okay. It's all good.
Your talk there about your dad as your mentor and guru just gave me goosebumps for it. And so I guess in our experience, we have had a lot of support from the men around us, fathers, husbands, and in partners in our profession. And but you're right. It's all about perspective, and slowly that is changing, and it's no longer that women are invisible and you get looked at and talked straight to, instead of just being kind of neglected on the table. So that's good. And K-Light has worked on several government projects, and so coming back to the government debate, what according to you is the perception of women-led companies within the government organizations? Like, for instance, could you see a woman-led firm driving the design of Delhi's new Central Vista?
Okay, you're putting me in a corner there.
Maybe if somebody's listening in, there may be opportunity and.
All right. So I'll just answer the first part of your question. I really think there is no major differentiation on ground level as far as policy is concerned, whether you're running a woman-led or a men-led industry or an organization. So though there might be policies drafted, but really on ground reality, we don't see that happening. Secondly, on the Central Vista, the controversial question that you've chosen to ask me, I personally think it's not about men versus women, but objectively selecting the best professionals for handling such a wonderful project is what I would look at. And if women are part of that board, brilliant. I think that would be great because they add a different perspective, they add a different flavor. However, I think Central Vista project could be made like a flagship project because it is the largest project that has been undertaken. I think if both the stakeholders, like the designers who are working and actually the manufacturers, work together to create world-class projects, products not only for this project, but a product that could probably be globally exported and could also, show the potential to the world of the talent pool both designers and manufacturers in India have. I think it would be an very evolved ecosystem that we would work in. So yeah, that's my take. And I think this projects like this is a brilliant showcase for talent to come out. Designers, male, female, anything.
They are. Absolutely. And from lofty aspirations now, we'll move down to some grim realities. And there are certain challenges that women in the workforce face regardless of industry or region or sector or position. But if we were to look specifically at our context of the lighting fraternity in India, what are these primary challenges? So this is a question for the audience first. And coming up on the screen is a quick opinion poll to get your thoughts on what is the foremost challenge for women in the Indian lighting industry. And there are, you'll have 5 options that show up on your screen. 1, achieving a work-life balance. 2, harassment at the workplace. 3, lack of recognition in terms of pay or promotion. 4, late night hours for mock-ups or site visits. And the last one is just anything else that may have been missed out here, and it says others. And we'll give this a few seconds. Please put in your options, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out as a general public perception of these challenges. Here we are, achieving work-life balance. And that's nearly almost 50% of people feel that. And it's I would say it's not different for India than in anywhere else. And but I'll take this panelist's view on it. Mrinalini, what is your take on what, according to you, is the foremost challenge for women?
Well, there are multiple things, and it's really interesting to see that the audience has not majority, but yeah, almost has chosen work-life balance. I think what's also interesting here is that I don't think this is necessarily limited to the lighting industry. If you were to ask this question to people from architecture, interior design, they would probably have similar responses, and it's just the kind of work that is required, the kind of time that is required to put into this kind of profession. So I think that is it, but it's a very real struggle, right? It's something that women just struggle with because we have, there are expectations of us that are very different to expectations of men, unfortunately. But I have to say that I think with more awareness and more education, that seems to be changing, and there seems to be an upward sort of movement. But to add to what Sharmila said, I think this whole idea of, we just have this, if you're a woman in the industry, And I'd like to add another factor, try being a young woman in the industry, like all of us have been, right? It's just difficult to be taken seriously. And we are talking about not just in an office environment or in a meeting. Sharmila, I've had similar experiences where as an architect, I've been working at site. I'm giving instructions, I'm cutting the checks, I'm doing all of that. But when it comes to taking a critical decision, everyone from the contractor to the laborers turns around and tells me, "Ke, sir se pooch ke bata dena," right? Or like, "Where is sir? Why don't we ask him?" And I'm like, dude, there is no sir. So it's just, it's interesting to see that, it happens at every level. It's not just in a meeting, it's happening at every level. But it's also happening across the board, inside and outside the lighting industry. And I think these are challenges that we all face, especially I feel that having, now 10, 15 years later, it's become, the edges have kind of rounded off a little bit. It's become a little more gentler. You've kind of negotiate and find ways to deal with these things. Earlier, I used to walk into a site very sort of authoritatively and try to establish my presence. And then later on, you realize that there are other ways of dealing with it. But these are things that I think kind of, you learn with experience as well. But I think one of, and I'm surprised that not more people said this, but if you're talking specifically about the lighting industry, just working late nights, and especially when you're doing projects that are not in indoor controlled environments, right? If you're doing building facades, if you're doing public buildings, if you're doing monuments and things like that, where you're actually working outside and you don't have a choice but to work after sundown, then those are some real challenges in the lighting industry where, security and safety becomes an issue. Just staying outdoors, what kind of team do you have? What kind of people are you dealing with? How do you get home? And these are some real issues that I've had to deal with myself or with colleagues. And I think that's something that is a real challenge in the lighting industry, right? If you're working in an indoor environment, great, because then you have the option of blacking out and then trying and doing your mock-ups and all there. But yeah, I think just the ideas of working at site, dealing with different people, being taken seriously. And I think those are some of the challenges that we continue to face. I'm glad that it's changing. I think it's changed for me because of age as well, but I'm just glad that as a general scenario, things are changing and people are just becoming more and more mindful and aware of these things.
I'll take this question to Banu now, and she's from the diametrically opposite end of the spectrum as a salesperson. Banu, what has been your experience? And I'm sure you agree with Mrinalini on a lot of the points that were said. But
she in fact took away the words. I'm totally in agreement with what Mrinalini just mentioned, and I'll also go with the poll. For me, if you would want me to choose the first one, which we do face, in my opinion, achieving work-life balance is the foremost challenge. Whatever help that you get and the support you get at home, we as a woman can never stop being a mother. We can never stop being a wife or a daughter. And, we need to have that balance of career and giving our time to the family as well. And, lighting is never, it's not like a commodity. It's not like, okay, you got the order, you supplied it, you're done and dusted with it. It's never like that. Lighting, it's something which needs a lot of our time and attention, which means the daytime and the evenings, because of course the mock-ups are there. So the daytimes are also going to be like packed, and your evenings are also most of the time it's not yours. So yeah. Building industry as such, I feel it is still a bit disorganized and needs a lot of time. We seem to be working under a lot of pressure. But because we are in lighting, which needs both daytime and our evenings, the learning is constant. It's constant how to balance it.
So I'm going to take this question and just put a different perspective to Shelley. Considering that work-life balance is the primary challenge, how have you managed it, and or not, or is work life for you?
Yes, of course, it has been a struggle on all the fronts, especially in this country where even home fronts are demanding being a mother, a woman, I would say it was a struggle for existence. Like you really need to push yourself hard initially. Eventually, yes, of course, you learn to deal with multitasking and prioritizing and all. But I mean, it's just not for lighting design. It applies to all other design or all other fields. One really needs to push hard, especially in this country. And especially when I'm in a smaller town than mega city, it is quite a difficult thing to establish a new profession in a new perspective to explain people. I mean, yes, first you need to explain your family, and then you have to go and out and explain the society. So yes, it has been a struggle.
Surbhi, how has your experience been, given late night mock-ups and not having normal hours doesn't really help to strike a work balance, but this has not yet stopped women from undertaking this profession. So what is your take on it?
So as Mrinalini and Banu rightly mentioned, that yes, there are challenges in the nighttime site visits. Unfortunately, the society we live in, women are always at risk. And so everyday lifestyle challenges are not new for an ambitious woman. Walking at night becomes one such challenge for many due to safety or even family-related issues that, like Shelley said. However, this has never stopped a woman or us stepping out and pursuing our careers and dreams. So what I feel is being brave, alert, and determined has helped women to contribute in the field of lighting industry, irrespective of the time of the day. So after all, a woman deserves to see her light glow in the dark, which means seeing your concept turning into reality is a very, very satisfying aspect of any project, and especially for a lighting design. From my experience, being the principal designer of a women-led design firm, where I don't have to, bother a male team member for site visits, we have to personally go for the finalization or the mock-up, right, on the site. So, which is also the most interesting part of any project for that matter. But there are times when the site visits stretch beyond the midnight, which is like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. also in the morning, due to the delay in installation or many other external factors that are out of our control. So prima facie, as in my experience, the site visits per se are pretty safe, as it's about meeting all the stakeholders and the team members. However, it's the commute back home, which I feel is a little unsafe. And that too, it depends on the location. So whether it's Delhi, Mumbai, or a tier 1 or a tier 2 city for that matter. So for us, our projects are being spread in Delhi, Mumbai, and outskirts of both the metros. So Mumbai, I come back at 1 o'clock in the night, I feel completely safe. But Delhi, I cannot say the same thing. So and it's also in the pandemic, we have actually come back at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the night. So we have to do our best, I would say, in whatever is there in our control to keep us safe while carrying out our work. And even the government, as well as several NGOs, are working to ensure our women's safety 24/7.
I guess Delhi just needs to catch up with Mumbai on that front. And for somehow, that's always been the perception in the capital. Thanks so much. I wanted to get I want to get your input on this current situation and how the pandemic, is affecting the situation for women in the lighting profession. And what is your thought?
Pandemic, Nivedita, if you see, the COVID-19 pandemic has hit almost every major industry, not only lighting industry, but also every major industry, and lighting industry is no exception. So the execution of strict lockdown regulations in the country resulted in a temporary halt in several construction and renovation activities, as this limited the demand of new light installations. So people lost jobs, suffered pay cuts, unemployment, along with mental as well as physical health issues is on rise or was on rise, women especially became a victim of this mass crisis the most globally. But beyond the statistics, if we see by many worldwide organizations like the UN, the rise in job losses for women in the industry is predominant. And I can tell you from my experience that we receive almost 9 to 10 CVs every week from women designers from different fields like lighting, architecture, interiors, and not only from our country, but also from different parts of the world like Middle East, Italy, Europe, so many other countries as well, asking for a vacancy in the firm. And believe me, these are extremely brilliant profiles and resumes. And this rise, what we have seen is evident from the last year since the pandemic started. So definitely the pandemic threw a major roadblock, but intelligence and hard work have carved its way out as we see more and more women in the industry are now upskilling themselves and are quick to learn the new advances in the field of lighting, having proved that nothing will come their way in towards achieving their dreams, inspiring and empowering many others to break the glass ceiling. So follow their dreams, which of course requires a lot of perseverance, positivity, and patience.
Thank you, thank you. That was a designer's perspective. Sharmila, what is your experience as a manufacturing domain?
Firstly, I agree with Surabhi on the insider's perspective because I think she has more knowledge and information on the women in this specific profession. However, it's been challenging times, Nivedita, for everybody, I guess. And we are not, as they say, misery loves company. The whole world is with us in this one. So it's, I think, not only affected our industry, but globally every industry there is. I think with a lot of challenges people have faced and hardships they have faced, I think a lot of good has also come out of it. If you were to take a positive stride on it, if we've always been on the go, right? So this actually gave us the pause to rethink, recalibrate, spend more time with families, take up hobbies, things that we would never otherwise do. For me personally, this is the first time, I think, ever since I moved back to India in 2012, that I actually did not take a flight for 1.5 years, which is insane because I normally travel pretty often. So for me, this was an amazing time. I really got to spend a lot of time with my people on the factory floor. It was a great time to recalibrate, re-strategize, restructure the organization, really get, while companies were actually slowing down, we went on a totally, I don't know how this is going to pay off, time will say. We were on a hiring spree, so we tried to digitalize the company. We tried to use this downtime by hiring the best people in the market, because there's so many of them in the market, professionalize the organization, and kind of like get myself some time. So it's been a great learning for us. We've also got quite a few thought processes which has changed and shaped the way K-Lite would probably be looking at investing in the future. So good and bad, I think out of such situations, the best creativity comes out. So I would probably take that spin on it. Thanks, Nivedita.
Thanks. It's been a pause that, we didn't have a choice of. And some of us have been able to, some of us have lost some dear ones, and some of us have been able to use that very well. And I'm glad for that for you. I'd like to make some time for the questions from the audience. So as a parting note, Shelley, would you have some advice to all the young women who are deliberating between taking up lighting design?
Yeah, I would say every coin has its own two sides. So as lighting design is a young profession as compared to other design professions, it has its own struggle of recognizing and education, and as compared to developed countries. Also being comparatively young, it has a lot of potentials also. So if you have passion for light, why not?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We have time for one question, and let me ask the question first, and then put it to the panelists. Without being authoritative, how can you make your presence alive in a meeting where you are the only female? Would you like to go first, Shelley, since you're on? And perhaps, and I'm sure that everybody has a different way of tackling it. So maybe we can go one by one to each of the panelists.
I mean, it depends. I mean, how you. It's a tough question.
It's a tough question. It's a tough situation to be in, and I'm sure
it depends from a situation to situation, a meeting to meeting, and yeah. I mean,
yeah. Mrinalini, would you like to take this one up next?
Considering that I said that I used to do that, well, I think it just, if you have conviction in what you're saying and you put it across clearly and succinctly, then people will listen to you. If you have to be convinced about what you're talking first before you can convince anybody else. And I think that would be step one. But yeah, I think what is encouraging is that things are changing, and even men are becoming more cognizant of the fact that women have something to say, and what they're saying is significantly relevant to the discussion at the table. So I would just hope that we have lesser of these situations where we really feel the need to establish our authority or establish our presence. And my hope, and I'm being optimistic here, is that sooner than later we can be in a situation where we don't need to be having these conversations about women in lighting design or women in architecture, but we just talk about professionals and how designers are and what they're doing, and not segregate them and with these prefixes and suffixes and say that this is a gender that we belong to. Again, that it's a long shot, but I'm optimistic that we'll get there sooner than later.
I think that's a brilliant note to be ending this, but there's one more question, and I'd like to take that up from Dr. Prakash Parjatia on the role of women entrepreneurs and lighting designers in spreading awareness on lighting education. Surbhi, would you like to talk about this?
Yes, sure. So the first question, I have a small answer if I can take that as well. Basically, the mindset is changing now completely, I would say. There are many projects where we are only women-led design firms, and all our stakeholders and consultants are mostly male-led design firms or structural or engineering firms, I would say. And so in terms of authoritativeness, it actually is the work that should speak. And it's not about authority or authority for that matter. It's the work that should speak, and not whether it's a women or a male-led firm. It's actually how we are putting the work across is what is interesting to see in a meeting, right? And for the second question, in terms of education, we as a practice, we also have an education in lighting verticals. Whereby we teach across different segments and verticals. So yes, so it has also helped us to grow as a practice in terms of spreading knowledge and awareness to various design professionals, not only design professionals, so also our clients, to other fields as well. So yes, education and lighting go hand in hand, and we as entrepreneurs and designers should make a move to educate our client, not only our client, but also our peer designers required.
Thank you. Thank you. For the other questions that are there, and we do not unfortunately have the time to take those up right now, we will email responses to each of you, and thank you for reaching out to us. I'd like to close this session and just say, we have a big agenda in front of us as a lighting community to come together to spread education, to spread acceptability of the profession. And as one person put it really well, perhaps there can be a time where a lighting designer is actually the person who certifies whether a space is fit to occupy or not, because lighting design looks at a space like that holistically, emotionally, biologically, and if that person is tuned in right now, my regards, and definitely on our agenda to make this happen someday. Over to the Let Expo team, and thank you everybody for tuning in and for being with us today.
Thank you, Nivedita. Thank you for moderating today's session. Thank you all the speakers, the sponsors, and of course all the attendees for their participation and support in today's webinar. We would like to also invite you to be the part of our hybrid event, which is scheduled to take place from 18th to 20th November 2021 at IEML, Greater Noida. You can register for the event by logging on to our website, www.theledexpo-delhi.com. We request you to please fill in the survey at the end of the webinar to help us organize and plan many more such relevant seminars. We will be hosting our 4th webinar of the series on the topic Light Pollution, Time to Mitigate. We hope to see you there as well. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.